You have $1 billion. Nobody knows. Not your neighbors, not your friends, not the guy at the gas station who still calls you boss even though he has no idea who you actually are. And definitely not Daniel, who feels sorry for you every single morning while driving to work in a building you own. Daniel pitied you the moment he shook your hand. You could tell. Not because he said anything cruel, because he said everything kind. The kind that people use when they've already decided you don't matter. Good to meet you, man. Stay hungry. He said it without looking back. This is 3 years ago. A property networking event. You were in a plain jacket. No watch worth noticing. A dented car in the parking lot you kept meaning to fix. Daniel was in a suit that cost more than your first storage unit. Porsche Cayenne. Leased. But the parking lot didn't know that. 47,000 Instagram followers. A watch that caught the light at specifically the right angle in every photograph. He worked in commercial real estate, mid-level. But the way he talked about it, you would think he built the city himself. He spent 40 minutes at that event talking to a developer in an Italian suit. He handed you his card on the way out, not because he expected to hear from you, because discarding someone cleanly is still a form of manners. Stay hungry, you drove home, thought nothing of it. You had 3 lease agreements to review before morning. Here is what Daniel never understood. He confused the signal for the source. He built himself into a performance, the car, the watch, the caption, living the life. And the performance was convincing. It convinced his followers. It convinced his colleagues. It even convinced the people at that networking event who spent 40 minutes talking to him instead of you. But the performance had a problem. It needed an audience to function. The moment nobody was watching, it generated nothing. Your system didn't need an audience. It needed access. And access, once built, doesn't stop when you stop. Over the following months, Daniel mentioned you exactly once to a colleague. Yeah, I met this guy at the Meridian event. Quiet, drives a beat-up SUV, does something with storage units, I think. Storage units came out the way people say it when they're trying not to sound dismissive. But they are. Good for him, though. Everyone's got to start somewhere. He meant it kindly. That was the most unsettling part. Daniel wasn't a villain. He was something more common than that. He was a man who had learned to measure everything by its surface, and the surface of you offered him nothing. So he filed you, under irrelevant, and moved on. What he didn't see, what he couldn't see, was that while he was curating his feed and attending seminars and explaining leverage at dinner tables, you were buying the things nobody dreams about. Industrial yards, self-storage facilities, cell tower leases on rural land that looked like nothing from the road, freight terminals, warehouse clusters feeding logistics companies that had no idea who owned the ground they operated on. Not because these things were exciting, because they were necessary, and necessity doesn't go out of demand. It doesn't care about market sentiment. It doesn't care about trends. Freight still moves, equipment still needs storage, signals still travel through towers on land that someone quietly owns. You kept buying, nobody kept watching. That was the arrangement. The network expanded across 4 states, then 8, then 12 cities, including the city where Daniel worked, including the block where Daniel's office building stood, including the building itself. You found out on a Tuesday, eating lunch at home, a sandwich. Your property manager forwarded the quarterly tenant occupancy report. Routine document. You scrolled through it the way people scroll through things that don't surprise them anymore. Company name, floor, lease term, monthly rate, and then a name you recognized. Daniel's firm, the one he talked about at the networking event with the quiet pride of someone who considers their employer a reflection of their own status. 3rd floor, 3-year lease, paying monthly. To you. You read past it, finished your sandwich, went back to the lease agreements. Daniel at that exact moment was filming a reel from the office rooftop. City skyline, good light, deliberate angle, built different. This view never gets old. 42,000 impressions, 800 likes, fire emojis. Comments asking about the watch, he replied to everyone. You were generating returns while Daniel was generating content. The rooftop he was standing on? Yours. The building the video was filmed from? Yours. The address his company called home? Your asset. His entire professional identity, the view, the skyline, the backdrop of everything he photographed himself against. Was sitting on land with your name on the deed? He had no idea. He still doesn't. You ran into Daniel again 14 months after that first meeting. Smaller event, industry dinner. He recognized you the way people recognize someone they filed under irrelevant. A recalibration of posture, a generous smile. Hey man, good to see you. Still doing the storage thing? Yes, more or less. Good stuff. Listen, you should connect with me on LinkedIn. I probably know some people who could help you scale. He said it like an offering. A small gift from a man with more access. A man reaching down slightly to pull someone up. Appreciate that, you said. You meant it. Not for the reason he thought, but because the moment confirmed something you had understood for years. The loudest people in the room are almost never the ones with the most control over what the room is built on. His company renewed their lease that year. Standard process, operations director, signature, 3-year extension. The rent was fair, deliberately. Because stability in a lease creates stability in a business. Stability in a business protects jobs. Jobs protect families. Somewhere in that building, people went home every evening to lives that didn't collapse. Not because of Daniel's Instagram, because of terms set by a man Daniel dismissed with a courtesy card. He doesn't know that. He will never know that. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. He isn't the exception. He is the rule. Most people performing wealth online are employees of systems they've never thought to question. The building they film from, the city they claim is their backdrop, the infrastructure their entire lifestyle depends on. Owned by people who look exactly like someone who couldn't afford to be in the room. Think about that. Think about every person you've ever seen online showing you what success looks like. The car, the view, the life. Now ask yourself, who owns the ground they're standing on? Because it is never who you think it is. It is never the person performing. It is never the person who needs you to know. Daniel is still posting. Last week it was a reel from a rooftop bar. New watch, new caption, grateful for the journey. Comments full of people asking how he got to where he is, and he answers them, genuinely, with real advice about visibility and branding and showing up as the person you want to become. He believes it. In the world he can see, it isn't entirely wrong. But there is a world he cannot see, running directly beneath everything he photographs. A world of land and leases and access and infrastructure. A world that doesn't perform, doesn't post, doesn't need a single follower to confirm it exists. A world his Porsche drives across every morning on the way to a building it never once thought to question. You have $1 billion. Daniel has a great Instagram. And somewhere in the gap between those two sentences lives the most important financial lesson most people will never learn. Wealth that needs to be seen is working for attention. Wealth that doesn't need to be seen is working for you. One of those is a full-time job. The other one runs while you sleep, while you eat a sandwich, while you buy batteries at a hardware store and nobody looks twice. The accountant's email came on a Wednesday. No urgency, no drama, just numbers. You opened it in a hardware store aisle, between light bulbs and a pack of replacement parts for a gate sensor at one of your properties. $1 billion. A man next to you was comparing paint prices. Someone else was arguing about a return. You put your phone back in your pocket, picked up the batteries, walked to the register. Nothing changed, because nothing needed permission to change. The system already existed before the number confirmed it. The number just made it official. And the system didn't care about official. It was already moving. You finish paying, walk out of the store, start your dented car, drive back into a world that has no idea anything happened. Somewhere across town, Daniel is parking the Porsche, checking his reflection in the window, straightening his jacket, walking through the lobby of a building he has never once thought to question. His name on the company ID. Your name on the deed. The most powerful people in any room are almost never the ones performing power. They're the ones who own what the room is built on. They never needed the room to know. They never needed you to know either. But now you do. And that changes the way you see everything. Look around you, the building you're in, the road you drove here on, the infrastructure your entire life quietly depends on. Someone owns all of it. They're not on Instagram. They're not at the networking event working the room. They're eating a sandwich, reading a lease agreement. And they have absolutely no idea who Daniel is.